Hi, this is Pete Chianca from Blogness on the Edge of Town, and when I'm not blogging about Bruce Springsteen or writing my comic strip pet peeves, I am listening to Set Lusting Bruce, my favorite Bruce podcast, and really the only one worth listening to.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and I am back with one of my favorite guests. He would have to be on the Set Lusting Bruce Hall of Fame. My buddy Jay. How you doing?
Great, Jess. I am great. I'm flattered. I'm honored. This is the first Hall of Fame I've ever been inducted on, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're back after we recorded last time a pretty heavy Thunder Road discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. I had such a good time the last time I was on.
Yes, and so we've gotten some nice feedback. And I was telling Jay before we started recording, I went to everyone I could find to get this out. I was so proud of it. We actually had a poll, and I had asked, by the way, I have to tell you this story, Jay. I went to hear Thunder Road, which is the Bruce Springsteen cover band here in Dallas.
Okay.
And my wife, her sister, and her sister's husband, the four of us went, and they are casual Springsteen fans at best. But they had a really good time. They're a really good band, and the lead singer doesn't try to sound like Bruce. They just musically they sound like the E Street Band, but he just sings, and it was really good. And so at the end of the show, I was talking to a couple of guys, and I said, "Man, I got an episode coming up on Set Lusting Bruce you're going to love." And they said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a guy, and we do nothing but talk about Thunder Road." "Wow." I said, and he asked me a question I've never thought of. Does she get in the car? And he looked, and he goes, "I've never thought of that." "Hey, Mark." And he turns to one of the keyboard. "Hey, Mark, what do you think? Does Mary get in the car?" "Well, of course she gets in the car." He said, I've never thought of that. That's great. I said, you should need to listen to the episode. So,
that's awesome.
Yes. So we had it. By far, our audience are optimists.
Okay.
93.3% of the people who voted said yes.
Okay.
She got in the car. 6.67% said no. She didn't.
Okay. All right.
So,
okay. Well, that's good. We got a lot of optimistic people out
yes,
there. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and
hey, I'm an English literary teacher. We're kind of a pessimistic breed, I think.
Well, and there's something about we talked a little bit about this, but if Rick got the girl in Casablanca, would it be a classic?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean there's something about that. Very good and wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you make a book signing?
You know what? I tried to get tickets for him to see him in Philly.
Yeah.
And the website shut down.
Okay.
And it conked out, and I wasn't able to get any tickets. So
okay.
No, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to. I am reading Born to Run though. How about you? Are you reading it?
I am. I just reached. That was my next question. I just reached the point where they did the reunion tour. I'm getting close to the end, and he talked the story of 41 Shots.
Okay.
And he did not spend as much time on Land of Hope and Dreams, which I guess isn't as controversial, but he spent a lot of time on 41 Shots, which may make a neat episode sometimes to compare those two songs because he wrote them at the same time. So, yeah. How far are you?
Yeah, you're way ahead of me.
Okay.
I am about like 200 pages. He's just heading back out west for the second time.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit, I read a lot, but I'm a bit of a slow reader.
Yeah.
And I found myself as I was reading the early parts of the book, and I knew you and I had this episode coming up where
Yeah.
like I just stopped reading and then I like went on the internet and I went to YouTube and I started looking up songs and listening to songs. And
Yeah.
what I think is really cool about it is, I mean, his voice comes through, and you've seen him live, you've heard him tell stories live, and I feel like at times, I mean, I feel like he's talking to you, and I think
Yes.
that's the mark of a good writer, and you can just hear his voice in his sentences, and it really is good. I really like it, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Bruce guy. But it's just a really well-written book.
I agree, and because there have been times when Bruce does an interview where I go, "Wow, that wasn't very good." I mean, he laughs at his own jokes, and sometimes I'm like, "Where are you going?" But in this, I think it's a really clear voice. I feel he throws in lyrics, but not as shtick. It truly is just without he's using those phrases.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, and what I really like is this sort of visual geography that he has, especially early on when he's talking about Freehold and when he goes out west for the first time. And so much of that is worked into his music, and especially when I was doing some research for this episode and looking into those rarities and those early tracks,
Right.
a lot of his journeys early on worked themselves into his rare songs, or at least his earlier songs.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. And I also, there's that scene when after his parents have moved, because I think you've reached that, where his parents have moved to California,
Yeah.
and he's moving out of the house, and he's on this couch that's on a truck, and the imagery of like, and I've never lived there again.
Yeah, I know that scene. I actually read that not that long ago, and I stopped because it was such a well written scene. It was like you were reading Bruce lyrics.
Yes.
Is what it was like. Yeah, it was a beautiful scene.
And it did seem like a song. It seemed like a scene from a movie, and it's stuck with me, this high idea. And it, especially because our last episode we talked about getting over your childhood and trying to come to grips with your parents and your relationship, and we knew the book was going to be talking a little bit about that when we recorded this last time, but I'm still, I don't know if surprised the right word, but I'm very happy how in depth he's gone to this and has shared.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, 200 pages in, and he's going out west for the second time. They haven't had a big break yet. He hasn't even written really any. He's written songs, but he's just getting into songwriting. So yeah, it's really in depth early on. I find it fascinating because I mean I'm familiar with the area, with the Freehold area, the Central Jersey area. So again, when he's explaining those early places, they're places I've been, and it adds a level of excitement for me, the reader.
Good. Well, just in honor of you, I am wearing my Thunder Road lyric T-shirt. That's
I was wondering what that was.
Yes, it is a. I will post a picture of this. It is a keyboard, but it is made up of the lyrics to Thunder Road.
Oh, fantastic!
All right. So as we talked about, I love talking to Jay so much. We're going to try to do this once a month in different topics, and this month's topic is obscure rarities, deep tracks, and we kind of left it at that. We said, we weren't going to do covers necessarily, or we weren't going to do like a song he's only done once live, as a cover. Right. But this was stuff that he's released, or at least it's out there fairly common, and for us to kind of talk about it.
Yeah.
Now, what was your process, and how did you come up with your songs?
My process. Well, I just started going through YouTube, and if you start typing in like obscure Bruce songs, you will just start finding playlist after playlist. So it was funny because I was reading Born to Run, and oftentimes as I was reading, I was playing these just rare tracks that were uploaded from on YouTube. They sounded like they were like recorded in somebody's basement,
Right.
back in like the early 70s. So the sound quality wasn't that good, but it was just kind of cool. You're kind of like listening to history. So most of the songs that I have are dated, except for one is relatively new. Actually, yeah, one and a half. I'll explain that later.
Okay. Very nice. What I did is I looked at, I knew some right away that I knew would be on the list. But what I did is I kind of looked at his albums and kind of looked at the list and then wrote down, yeah, this. You know, that didn't make my list was Meet Me in the City from the newest box set. But I really liked that song, and was like, that's a shame it didn't make, an actual album.
Right.
But then he opened every show with it, so I don't know how obscure it is anymore. But so,
Well, I have something to say about that song later.
Okay, good. So, I kind of at the last minute while we were waiting to talk, did a quick search through not the best kind of database, but I did at least some on the internet to say, like if you go, how many times has Bruce played these songs? You've got a database. So I've got some songs that they tell me, how many times he's played it live, which,
Right, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you right away. And if I take one of yours, like, is Thundercrack eligible for, rarity? Or even, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It didn't make my list. It was on my longer
Okay.
list. But yeah, I would think so. It was one I considered.
And how about The Wish?
Yeah, another one. Sure.
Okay, because both of those made my list, but I didn't, I had about 10 or 12, and then so I pushed it down, and I debated on, like The Wish, The Promise, that such epic songs, Thundercrack that was so new, you go, well, is that, I mean, if you're live in concert, you're going to be thrilled that you get that, but is it a true, rarity?
Right,
So
okay.
that's a debate.
Okay.
So what I did is I said these are songs that the casual fan wouldn't know,
Mm-hmm.
and that I've always just loved hearing. And so if I was doing my mixtape, like back in the day when you put it on cassettes, these would be the obscure songs that I would want to have on there.
Right. I kind of did the same thing too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. You want to go first? You want me to?
No, I'll go first. I don't
Okay,
mind.
good. Okay.
All right, so I stumbled across this song a couple years ago, and actually on YouTube, I was typed in Bruce Springsteen and eventually came across it, and I was just looking for something different, something that I'd never really heard of before, and it's a song that I've listened to quite a lot over the years. The only version of it I can find is on YouTube. He actually played a live version of this song in Trenton, New Jersey, which is right around the corner from where I live.
Yeah.
When he was on his Devils and Dust tour. And the song is Song for Orphans.
Wow.
Are you familiar with it?
I am not.
No. Wow, right out of the gate, I'm
Yeah,
stumping.
you are stumping me. Yeah, I'm writing it down. Now, what's the
So-
name of the song?
Song for Orphans.
Okay.
It's a fantastic song. You will find a really nice quality version of it on YouTube. there is a live version from when he performed it in Trenton. From what I believe, it was only performed twice. He only performed it twice. It is such a it's an early song, obviously. It's such a cool mix of like his storytelling, but also like there's this Dylan-esque voice in there too that I really like. And the song itself, I really think it captures this idea of journey that he was so much about in so much of his music, and still is. And as I was reading Born to Run, especially about when he goes out west for the first time, there's a lot of that in this song. There's a lot of like Western imagery. He talks about like the desert. He talks about California in this song. But he also talks about I have some of the words from the song identified here on my paper. He uses words like babies and brats and aimless, quietless, renegades, strays, refugees, abandons. The song itself is called Song for Orphans. And so it really is just about sort of being lost out in this kind of unknown world. And I thought that was a lot of what was going on in his early life. You know, he's 18, 19 years old, trying to break out of central New Jersey and trying to figure out who he is. I don't know if you ever read like Jack Kerouac's On the Road, but there's a lot of that sort of free-spirited imagery that runs pretty deep in this song. The song itself it's slow. It's a slow song, and there's times where it's kind of like you really have to kind of strain to figure out what he's saying. But when you look at the lyrics and you listen to it, it does paint just a beautiful picture. And I really like this song. I think it's fantastic.
Well, I will have to check it out. Really nice. Boy, you just setting the bar, as always, up really strong.
Oh, man, I thought you've known this song. You know?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I'm sorry. At the beginning of the song, he says a sign. I saw a sign, Hollywood or bust, and you know that's what he was trying to do early on in his career. Try to get out of you know the dead town of Freehold, New Jersey, and become famous. So really great song. Definitely check it out.
Okay, I will. Mine is when I was on E Street Radio doing my 5 songs for Be the Boss. This is from Trax, Linda Let Me Be the One.
Okay.
Specifically because my wife's name is Linda.
Right.
And I love the kind of, there's not necessarily a sense of romance to it, but there is just this kind of sadness and the whole, this yearning that he shares. And he does not play it. I know he's played it live at least once, but it's not something he plays very often. And so for sentimental reasons, I would pick that one.
Nice.
Okay.
I've heard that song before. It's kind of lost in my mind right now.
Yeah.
But I am familiar with it. Yeah.
And what I may do is I may pull clips of this as we talk and play a little bit of that in
Right.
when I do the mix. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely.
Good.
My next one was one that you already mentioned.
Okay.
Meet Me in the City.
Okay.
And I was thinking about that. Like he opened up this river tour with that song for the first leg of it, and then he went to Europe, and then he changed his set list up, and then he came back.
Yeah.
And he didn't play that song at all. When I saw him in Philadelphia, he didn't play it.
Right.
And not that I was disappointed, but I would have liked to have heard that song.
Yeah.
I like that song because it's like it's classic E Street. It is hearty. It is energetic. There's a certain like bravado and spirit about it that I think is really cool. And like it captures like all the sounds, all the quintessential sounds of E Street. There's that sax solo in there. And what I think is cool is that he opened up this latest tour with that song, and Bruce he's 67 years old now. And the song is about just running, running to the city and being alive. And it's a song that, he wrote on while he was writing The River. He was a much younger man then. But even hearing him play it now, he plays it with like such energy and aliveness that it's really like an infectious sort of song. You can't help not like tap your toes when you hear that song.
Yeah, and it's a perfect song to start a show with.
Yeah.
When they come out and and it's energetic, it's fast, and then you kind of have that almost classic E Street Band bridge where it kind of brings down, like on Born to Run where you kind of change and then you bring it up another gear. And he's good evening, Louisville. We are so, and the band's in the background. We are so glad to be in your lovely city tonight. And he kind of talks about that, we're going to take you to the river. And, and then all of a sudden they go into that end and it's just powerful. And I agree. It is a wonderful song. And I hope they're not tired of it because I think it's a good song to make the rotation.
Yeah, I was pumped to hear that, to hear it live, and then it wasn't there. And again, not that I was disappointed because I really did appreciate the show.
Right.
But you're right, it's just it's like a stadium type of song that especially like the refrain at the end.
Yeah.
If you can holler and say all right. I mean, it's just it's classic E Street, and it was cool to see that song came out like so many years after Born to Run came out.
Right.
Like they still have it, after all these years.
Yeah, and you're right that if you can hear me then say all right, and just you can do that over and over again is just a really well done. So great choice. So I picked a sappy one for my next one. I really am a fan of Drive All Night and that slow. And so Back in Your Arms from Trax.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I just love that because it captures the mood. And, he talks about that when he's done it live on a couple of the downloads. He'll talk about, have you ever really, messed up? Have you, and what do you do? And it does have that. And what reminds me of is that there are times when my life has kicked me in the butt. I have come home where, whatever cliche you want to do, I'm the fire hydrant and all my friends are dogs. I mean, you just have had in that day where nothing has gone right and you just feel, and you come to this family, be it your bride or like with you with the young kids, and that comfort, that the image of me is getting into that where you're really tired and you get into that, bed and it's soft and it's warm and you're safe. And that when he sings that song to me, I get that image. And so that's one that it touches me because I have had those days, and I think everyone has that days. And the idea of just, if I could just be back in your arms again, everything would be okay.
Yeah. It's cool now thinking about like our songs here. We have such a kind of eclectic mix. We've just gone from, the stadium rocking in the city to Back in Your Arms,
Yeah.
But that's that's the range of his music.
It is really, and also, what the diversity of coming from, I like this show, the latest tour, when he played, he did so many songs from his first few albums, and that classic fans were just thrilled that we were getting this. And, and I'm like, man, if he had pulled some songs like, from a couple other albums, I would love that to talk about it. So yeah. Okay.
All right. Next up for me, obviously I'm a fan of storytelling, and it's one of the reasons why I'm attracted to Springsteen is just his ability to paint this beautiful image and pictures and tell a very complicated story in 3 to 4 minutes is something that I always admire. And I've loved this song for a really long time. It's from the Tracks album. It's Zero and Blind Terry. Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, good song.
You.
Yeah.
You were silent. I thought.
No. I was just listening. Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay. All right. So Zero and Blind Terry. It's just it begins with the Skulls and the Pythons met down at the First Street Station, and it's it's about these two sort of warring gangs, and how Zero is sort of Terry is sort of trapped in all of this. But what I love about it is that I don't know what year he wrote this, and I probably should have looked it up. But it was early on. And again, there's a lot of like roots of like jungle land in this song. And you can see as the years progressed and his storytelling became a little bit more fluid, you could see how this song I really think has a lot of roots for a lot of the other sort of epic storytelling songs that he created over the years. And there's again like with these songs, there's so many themes that cross over through all of his albums, and especially in Zero and Blind Terry. There's this sort of attractness to the darkness, shall we say the darkness on the edge of town,
right?
That Bruce himself was enamored by, and that whole like defiance of authority. We have that running really deep in this song. I just like it. It's a cool song. It's a cool story. Just kind of like how Thunder Road is, and some really like cool images in here. I have this underline on my notes here. And this was a line that if you listen to it, I could not figure out what he was saying. I could not figure it out. I had to go to the lyrics. But the line is, now Snow White troopers from the Council of Crime rode silver foxes through Terry's field. And if you hear him sing it, you can't understand what he says. but it is just this like this neat image of this father kind of trying to win his son back, and his son being attracted to the darkness on the edge of town. So
yeah, really a great song. A classic, and there's something about Tracks, and a lot of my things came from Tracks as well, because what a gift that you just give all these songs that have just been in your catalog and you throw them out there. So, nice pick. So I cheated on my next one because in a lot of ways I think these two are kind of the same song. From the Blood Brothers EP, Without You. Okay. Monday, and then Ain't Good Enough for You.
Okay.
Are both kind of, if Born in the USA is a very power ballad with a very serious subject. These are both, I'm not doing well, but I'm just don't give a damn, and they're happy. This almost pop song like Ain't Good Enough for You is just, when I got that from the box set, the Promise box set, and it just like, I'm not good enough for you, you keep trying to change me, and then Without You, kind of this whole, going through the days of the week. They both are really happy pop songs dealing about not having the love of your life.
Right.
And I don't even know if it's really the love of your life. It's just a girlfriend, and I'm going to be okay without you, but I'm going to just a little sad. So in a lot of ways, I think they're the same song, just a little bit different. So I bunched them together.
Okay. All right. Good. Yeah. Good. For me, I guess the poppy songs, I really have to be in the mood for them.
Right.
I kind of like, I guess like a fine wine, you kind of have to be in the mood for them. Like Dancing in the Dark is Obviously, it wouldn't make this list, but it's one that I don't necessarily need in my life.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Now, I'm going to take us off track a little bit. Do you get tired of hearing Glory Days?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal in concert.
Yeah.
I really do like it in concert, but yeah, Glory Days is one of those that I'm okay with. How about you?
Well, I tend to smile every time I hear it. You know, I tend to Dancing in the Dark. I actually think is a lot more. There's a lot of depth in that song.
There is, yeah.
That is highlighted by the poppy, and the massive overplaying. And now you have the whole, the different shticks of people coming on stage and dancing with him. And I do think, I have a theory that Jake is going, okay, Bruce, pick someone. I'm kind of tired of just doing this saxophone solo over and over again while you're picking up someone, you're getting them on stage. Oh, now you're going to get someone for Susie, and I just got to keep the saxophone solo going. Yes. Yeah. And I do think this is very consistent of ours. You have a lot of deep songs, and I just have fun songs. So this is, Mr. Walt Disney.
Yeah, right.
And, Mr. Archie comic books, and you are Frank Miller's Dark Knight.
Yeah. It's just funny because, I was getting ready for this, and I was like looking at lyrics, and I mean that's just how I go about it now. I guess it's the English teacher in me, and my wife said something kind of jokingly like, "Don't you ever get tired of just picking apart like words?" And I'm like, "No, for me it's fun. I don't know why. I just don't know why. I just get a real kick out of it."
Jay, I have a good friend, Tom Zoller, who has done several comic books, Love and Capes and Long Distance, and he is one of my dearest friends. And he was dating a wonderful lady once, and him and his best friend Mike were after, and they'd gone to a movie, and Mike and him were just dissecting the movie about what they liked, what they didn't like, what worked. And Tom's girlfriend at the time says, "Can't you just watch the movie and now let's eat pizza?" And both Tom and Mike looked at her like, what are you talking about? I mean, that was part of the joy of them, is just this whole, so I get it, and I understand that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No. Just how my brain works.
Yes.
I can't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
All right, well, I couldn't do this show without this song. The Promise. I have to put this on the list. Just obviously, my affinity for Thunder Road.
Yeah.
And, The Promise is sort of a follow-up to that. And it's funny, we had this conversation about did Mary get in the car? Did she go? And there's a line in this song that made me think about Mary, even though Mary's name is not mentioned in the song. In the middle of the song, he says, "Thunder Road, oh baby, you were so right." And the song itself is, I mean, it's a sad song. He's talking about selling his car, or that he sold his car. When promises are broken, you cash in a few of your dreams, you go on living. And, I got to believe, oh baby, you were so right. In my mind, I think that's Mary.
Right.
Going back to her, and maybe she didn't get in the car and she said, "I'm not going," and you're gonna fail, or you're not gonna make it, or something like that.
Right.
And again, this pessimistic side of me, but a very beautiful song. And another line that I love is, he says, "Inside, I felt like I was carrying the broken spirits of all the others who were lost." And I think if you read Born to Run, and you look at, again, where I'm at, the first 200 pages, he was, and he has always been doing that. like carrying people, yeah, obviously metaphorically, but sort of he was chased down his dream so others could live their dream. And I go back to the show that he played in Philadelphia that I saw, and he brought up this college kid to play No Surrender with him. And I
Right.
mean, and this wasn't just something that he did once. He does it all the time.
Right.
But you think about how many sort of dreams he allowed to happen
Right.
by being himself, and taking people on this journey with him is, why I have so much respect for him.
In a lot of ways, a lot of people have said The Promise is the other side of Thunder Road, but what I thought of, especially after our discussion, is The Promise is a story of making bad decisions.
Yeah.
The Thunder Road, as you so eloquently talked about, is a song about we have a choice.
Yeah.
And you can't always tell if a choice is a good choice or a bad choice. It's just a choice. But it feels like in The Promise, I got a job down in Darlington. Some nights I don't go. Some nights I go to the drive-in, and some nights I just stay home.
Right.
It is I'm making a decision to not go to work because I don't care about the consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, the song obviously has a way different tone to Thunder Road. He says in that song, when the promise is broken, you still go on living, but it steals something down in your soul. Like when the truth is spoken, it don't make no difference. Something in your heart turns cold. Thunder Road is like bursting with aliveness, and
Yes.
I know we talked about the end of that song. Did she actually get in the car? But it's a triumphant, sort of defiant song.
Yes.
And the promise is, I just picture our protagonist in Thunder Road pulls out of town. Remember, he's pulling out of town to win. Remember,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily a song about winning.
Right.
It's a song about losing and chasing down a dream, but that dream didn't bring you happiness. And Springsteen he's talked about it too. I mean, you look at like his recent revelations about his bouts with depression, and in The Promise he actually says, what does he say? I won big once and I hit the coast. But now I've paid the cost. And with success and with choices, as we were saying last episode, comes consequences.
Yes.
Now it's like the promise is he's living with the consequences. In Thunder Road, there were no consequences. In The Promise, there are, and he has to live with the fallout.
All my life I've fought that fight, the fight that you just can't win. Every day it just gets harder to live the dream you're believing in.
Yeah.
Whether it's the American dream or, the dream of a happy marriage and raising kids and, having a home and a career. And it is, this person needs to be back in their lover's arms. And there are times when this pain that he is sharing in this song is so beautiful.
Oh,
It is just, there are times when, I don't know if you've seen the HBO show Wit based on the play, and it's about a woman, fighting cancer and dies of cancer, and it is a sad, sad movie, but it is so beautiful of watching that experience and how she's going through it, and there are times when art lets you experience that without necessarily having to go through it, or it brings you to that moment where you lived a secret you should have kept to yourself, but I got drunk one night and told it.
Right.
right?
Yeah. There's. I think we talked about this with Thunder Road. There's a cinematic quality to that song
Yes.
that you can see it. I think I explained it like that song very similar to like Robert Frost's poem, "The Road Not Taken." You're like a traveler in that
Yes.
song, and The Promise does something very similar. It is very cinematic, but
Yes.
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It really is. But it's a beautiful song, and The Promise it's funny because I spend most of my days with young adults, teaching young adults, and they have the bravado. They walk with the bravado. They talk with the
Yes.
bravado that you have in Thunder Road. And yet, when I leave work and I come home and I deal with, adult life, shall we say,
Yes.
it's unfortunate, but I know adults in my life who are now sort of living the promise.
Yes.
The 17-year-old kids are living Thunder Road.
Yeah.
The 45-year-old people are living the promise.
Yeah, I mean, because when you are 17, and it's the way it should be, you should be optimistic. You should think that you're pulling out of here to win.
Right.
Because and I'm oversimplifying. I know there is many 17-year-olds that have had a tough life and they've already shown, a lot of character and they've already grown up because of circumstances. But in generally speaking, you've kind of been in a bubble. We talked about this too. And yes, if you guys have not listened to this episode, we're sorry we keep bringing it up, but where you haven't had to make decisions, you haven't had to make these choices. Your parents have made it for you, and now then, it's the old joke. You were born on third base, and you thought you hit a triple. It's yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh, beautiful choice. Man, now I feel bad. Man, mine just. Wow, you shame me all the time, man. That's what you do, Jay.
You're not gonna. I'm in a Hall of Fame, man.
That's it.
Do, right?
Yeah. And I think what's very, I pick songs that made me think from my heart, and so I picked Lion's Den as my next one from Tracks.
I live and breathe
because I loved that.
People.
I love the song. I love the idea that I'm in. I'm Daniel waiting in the lion's den. I'm waiting for these bad things to happen, but that's okay. So I think also it brings back my next song will too, my Southern Baptist raising. I converted to Catholicism when I married Linda, but I spent all my formative years in a Southern Baptist church where you went to, Bible school and you just vacation Bible school and you had all these stories. And so first off, I think it's hilarious that he's mentioning Daniel in the Lion's Den in a song, and then just I can remember that image of them doing that. So that's an obscure song that I just enjoy and I love hearing it.
Yeah, no, that I haven't heard that song in years, man. It's a good song, definitely is.
Yeah.
But like a lot of these songs now, especially the ones you've mentioned, I got to go back and listen to them.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip because I'm going to let you go last. So in that biblical term, I love from High Hopes, "This is your sword."
Okay.
And I think it's because deep down I'm a frustrated either stand-up comedian or Southern Baptist preacher. I love the brothers and sisters, listen to me. These are the few things that I leave to thee, a sword of our fathers with lessons hard taught, a shield strong and sturdy from battles well fought. This is your sword, this is your shield, this is the power of love revealed. Carry them with you wherever you go and give all the love that you have in your soul. That's a testimony. That is saying, that your love is your heart, and it's the power of love is what's going to get you through this, through the hard times and the things. And so I know a lot of fans do not think of High Hopes. It's kind of a afterthought, a rarities album and thing. But I just love, and this is one of my just favorite songs because the lesson of hope and the lesson of it's almost a homily of this is how you should get through your life and how to use this.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Again, that song, man, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So as you're talking, I'm trying to think of that song in my head. Yeah.
And and like one of the other verses is at times there are dark must cover the earth. This world's filled with the beauty of God's work. Hold tight to your bronze, stay righteous, stay strong when the days of miracle will come along.
Yeah.
So it things are going to be tough, but if we have each other and if we keep the faith, we're going to make it. And I guess that's my philosophy in a very quick terms.
Yeah, and you know what? And you've probably heard Springsteen talk about this. He wrote about it in Born to Run. His Catholic upbringing.
Yes.
And I once heard him say, once you're Catholic, you never go back.
Right.
And that imagery that gets pressed upon you when you are young and impressionable and you are being raised in a
right.
church, that it doesn't go away. It's always there, forever. And you can see that in that, his interactions with the church have always worked its way into his songs.
Yes.
One of my favorite songs, and I wouldn't count this as a rarity because it's a track on an album, is "Jesus Was an Only Son."
Yes,
which is just an absolutely brilliant song. Brilliant song. And obviously, it's about Jesus's kind of final walk to his ultimate death.
Yeah, and we're talking about doing story songs, and I will tell you that will make my list.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a beautiful song, and as I was lucky enough to see him on the Devils and Dust, but also as you talked earlier, that songwriter thing where he talked about it's the choices, right? It's the struggles we make and the choices make an absolutely beautiful song. I agree, yeah. And it's wonderful. I'll end. The other thing that really means a lot to me in the song is, this shield will protect your secret heart. The sword will defend from what comes in the dark. Should you grow weary on the battlefield, well, do not despair. Our love is real. Mm-hmm. And I guess, at times, Jay, even though I'm an optimist, I you have that, the world beats you down.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that, whether it's, a song to feel depressed on or, a song that just says, hey, it's okay. It's going to be there. Yeah. So that's kind of my deal. Cool. So, all right. How about you? What's your big one?
All right. We're going to take it home here. So this is one that is actually a hidden track.
Okay.
On the Magic album.
Yes.
All right, you know where I'm going with this?
Yes, it does, and that it was almost my top pick.
Yeah, you know what? When you came to me with this idea, I was like, I knew right away that this was my top song because there's obviously much more popular and famous songs that get really top billing when you're starting to put together a list.
Yeah.
But this song is, every time I listen to this song, I get chills, and I'm being very honest. When you hear a song for the first time, especially if there's, it's a song that just strikes a chord with you. There's a certain weight and gravity to the song itself and to the music that it hits you in a very, very deep and personal and profound place. And the song I'm alluding to is Terry's Song, which is a hidden track on the Magic album. I think I believe the last song on that album is Devil's Arcade. And you have to go a few minutes after that song to hear Terry's song.
Right.
But Terry's song was a song Springsteen wrote for his longtime manager, Terry McGovern. And, the song, there's a line in there that I always think about, even when I'm not listening to the song, but it's just something that sort of I've carried with me. And the line is, but love is a power that's greater than death, just like the songs and stories told. And this is a testament to the power of storytelling, to the power of music. I mean, his longtime friend died, and what did he do? He wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
And the song memorializes his friend, but it speaks so much about life, and it speaks so much about why we tell stories and why songs and music are important. And I mean, this is a song I could just listen to over and over again. He says in there, they say you can't take it with you, but I think that they're wrong, because all I know, I woke up this morning and something big was gone. It's beautiful.
It is. And, I have a friend who made the joke that whatever song, I'm drawing a blank around now, but Bruce wrote a song for Danny and Clarence, but you're like, you got to go. I didn't get Terry's song. I think this is one of the greatest songs. Yeah.
Yeah. And he concludes that song with that there's a power, there's an attitude, a power that's stronger than death, alive and burning. It's we don't need to go into it. I mean, I think I explained it like on the first time I was on this episode, like some of the personal stuff that I went through a couple years ago, and it's something that I've dealt with kind of head on.
Yeah.
But it's something that I've come to really believe that to overcome things such as death, we have to tell stories, and that our life is bigger than we think it is.
Yes.
We leave many ripples, and we have such a power that we are oftentimes unaware of. And I think this song just sort of taps into that. I didn't know Terry, obviously, but this song is universal, and it's just saying, look, man, we all have a great power in us, and we touch many lives that we're like unaware of.
Yes.
It's funny. Like for me being a teacher, it's ironic we're having this conversation today. So I actually got an email this morning from a student who's at Ohio State that I taught a couple years ago, and she just wanted to check in and say hi, and she shared to me a piece of advice that I gave her 3 years ago that I have long forgotten, and she shared it with me, and she's like, I just want to thank you for sharing this with me. And I kind of was like, I forgot I said that, and you don't really realize the power that you hold. And I think this song just captures that your life, your physical life may end, but your spirit will reign. And that's why I got to put it as my number one.
Just a great choice. It was on my list, and I when we were talking, and I originally had Without You and Ain't Good Enough as separate, and when I put them together, I said I'm gonna need another song, and I wrote Terry's song, and then I said no, I want to do This Is Your Sword. So that's how close it came.
Okay.
To being that. I love that you brought that up about the stories, because when you lose someone, and I've lost parents and grandparents, and I've lost a really good friend of mine way too young, and you tell the stories about their life, and right, if you're here and we're here, they're here.
Right.
And this, when I talk about Rick and I share the stories of him, my son had bought his first new car, and we were at a party for my wife's birthday, and Chris said, "Oh, Rick, I want to show you." And so he went out in the garage. He wanted to show. He was so proud of his new car, and Rick's like, "That's what is? I thought we were coming out here to smoke a joint." I thought you had some pot out here. Oh, and Chris tells that story all the time, that fool. And, and it is, we are stories, and it is, by telling these stories that people stay alive and they feel part of your life. And how cool that Bruce talked about this. And, I always love the line, "I know you'll take comfort in knowing you've been roundly blessed and cursed."
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to make you a saint just because you're gone. Right. I am going to curse you the time you did this or whatever then. And it's absolutely a beautiful song. And I admire creative people who can take their pain or their stories and share it, whether it be in song or a short story. Mm-hmm. So well done, great job.
Yeah. The song always reminds me of something that probably my favorite author, Tim O'Brien. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He wrote The Things They Carried, which is just a brilliant novel. And he wrote in there a line that really drives me. And the line is really simple. It says, "Stories are forever. Once you're alive, you're never really dead." And, that's what music is, and that's what storytelling is. It's, Terry is very much alive for the 3 minutes of this song, and it just memorializes those who have passed. It's what you do, with your friend Rick. You're telling the story, and when you're telling his story, for just that brief window, he's very much alive. And you think about when we. I hate to end on this note. We're talking about funerals and death and everything. Yeah. But when you do come across that, I mean, when you go to a funeral, what do people do? They stand around and tell stories about the person who passed, and it's a way for it's a form of comfort.
And the funerals that you love the most, and yes, is when you have someone, whether it's the priest or the preacher or just someone giving the eulogy, that is telling real stories about the person.
Yeah.
And you're right, because, stories live forever, and because of that, people live forever.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. This was great as always. I did want to spend a few minutes, and I'm springing you on this. You just finished, or you're in the process of giving this wonderful story about you as a father and a little bit of a crisis.
Yeah.
And this has been so amazing.
Thank you.
Such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned, you had a little Princess Bride twist in there that was really good. And I'm going to turn this over to you, but the thing I was thinking of is there, both in the book and the movie, the grandfather stops reading and looks at the son and says, "They're going to be okay."
Yeah.
You look like you're getting a little worried, so I want to tell you everything's okay.
Yeah.
And do you want to share a little bit about?
Yeah. So the story is entitled "A Hard Story to Tell," and it recounts probably the most unnerving moment of my life. I came home from work one day, just sort of a nondescript, Wednesday. My wife was in the kitchen baking cupcakes. It was June. The next day was my son, who at the time was 3 years old. It was his last day of school. He has a June birthday, so they were celebrating all the summer birthdays on the last day. She was baking cupcakes for that day. I walked into the house. It was a really humid June day, just a nasty, Pennsylvania humidity. Kind of lingering in the air. And I came into the house. And my wife was baking cupcakes, and kind of the old like suburban cliche, hi dear, how you doing? Have a good day. And her and I were just having this little conversation, and my two children were out in the living room, and I kind of waved to them, and they were busy eating lollipops and watching TV. And all of a sudden, my son came kind of walking at me through the hallway and into the kitchen, like kind of like a zombie, with his hands kind of stretched out before him, and his mouth was just sprung wide open, like as if it was, trying to unhinge itself. And my wife looked at him and said, "Oh my God, he's choking." And I'm not going to tell the rest of the story because you could go check out the rest of it.
Yes.
But I tried to write that story many times over, and I don't think I did a good job with it until recently. I tried to write it in poetic form, and I just couldn't capture it. I just don't think I was good enough to write it. And now that I write daily, and now my writing is what I take very seriously. I think I was able to do a pretty good job with it.
And I cannot urge you enough to go. Jay's going to share in a minute his website, and I will put it in the show notes as always. But your son's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to give away that.
That was the trick of telling the story, because on my blog I share so much about my children and my life, and there's pictures of them on there. So my son was okay, and you're right with that whole Princess Bride thing. I knew that I had to inform the audience that he was going to be okay, and at the same time I had to hold their attention.
Right.
So he's going to be okay. It's a hard story to tell. It's going to turn out okay in the end, but I'm going to do my best to hold your attention, and that's that's what I tried to do. And when I sat down to write it, I had no idea how long it was going to take, and then eventually it took me 3 parts to write it, and each part is roughly about like 750 words or so. So it was one of those projects that I was like, you know what? I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And it was funny, Jesse. I wrote part 1, and then I was like, oh crap, I got to write a second part. and there was such a release when I published part 1 that I was like, it was such a great feeling.
Yeah.
And then there was that immediate sinking feeling in my chest, because a couple people contacted me and were like, oh my God, I can't wait till next Friday. And then I was like, oh crap, I gotta write part 2. And then it was like, well, now I gotta write part 3. And I had no idea how many parts it was going to be when I started. I really didn't. It wasn't until I started getting into it that I figured, okay, I can do this in 3 parts. But the challenge was just keeping the energy up for 3 parts.
Yeah. Well done. I loved it, and I always love reading what you're writing, and so thank you. Jay, tell us how they can find you and read your writings and contact you to talk about Zero and Blind Terry.
So my website is rightonfighton.org. That's WRITE, rightonfighton.org. You can find me on Facebook, Right On Fight On at Facebook, and also on Twitter, Right On Fight On at Twitter. You can find me. So I'm out there.
Yes,
and I love to hear from everybody.
Yeah, Jay, thank you so much. This is truly, I love every time we get a chance to talk and, catching up with you and kind of sharing the different stories. And so we will do this again. We'll pick up another topic in about a month. We'll visit again. I am so happy when you said, oh yeah, I'd be a regular contributor. So that's great.
Well, I'm in the Hall of Fame, man. Do I get like a plaque or something?
Well, I will tell you what I'm trying to do. I actually have reached out to the guy who runs our podcast network, and I said, we have the Set Lusting Bruce page on your website that I don't do anything with. I said it's just where you can go to get the latest episode. I said I want to get any person who's been on the podcast 3 or more times to make a Set Lusting Bruce Hall of Fame, page, and
Right.
they could post the page, and then you could have, list their episodes, and also I was going to give you and Allie and a few other people have been on this to say, write a little bit about, your feelings about being on the podcast and other things I thought would be pretty interesting. So,
cool. Very cool.
Yeah, so that's ultimately what we're going to try to do. So,
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds
All right.
good, man.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners. Thank you. If you want to be on the podcast and talk about Bruce Springsteen, whether it's his hits, tell us why you love Dancing in the Dark. That would make a great episode. Cyrus was on a few episodes ago, and he talked how much he loved Waiting on a Sunny Day.
Okay.
And it
All
was
right.
he talked about his daughter, and it was that she had passed, and it was a happy moment with him. And so, not losing his daughter, but the song. And so, yeah, tell me why. You want to hear Dancing in the Dark or Glory Days. We got no problem with that. Hey, I'll even take it if you want to tell me how good Jersey Devil is. So that would take some convincing. Send it to setlustingbruce@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page, Set Lusting Bruce, and I am on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW and at Set Lusting Bruce. Hey, Jay, go. Thanks for staying up late with me. You got Friday as we're recording this. You got almost the weekend. So thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, and we'll talk to everyone else soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Jesse, for having me. I really liked the last show. I think that went really well.
I listened to it all the way again.
Yeah, I did too.
And I really liked how it came across, and I have a Kindle for his autobiography, and in one of the lines he said, "We're pulling out here to win," and I was like, "Send this to Jay, send this to Jay."
That's funny. And you know what? After we did that, I was listening just to music, and you know the version of that he does on that live Storytellers. It came out a while ago.
Yeah.
Well, I listened to it very closely, and he does say, "We're pulling out of here to win."
Yes.
So. But if you go back to the original lyrics, it's "I'm pulling out of here." So again, more fodder for discussion.